I did end up reading this book really fast, though.
I know you did read it fast. I feel like Carlos started first.
Yeah, I just finished it this morning.
Oh my god.
So I still haven't even rated it.
Me either. I also have not rated it yet.
Stop, guys. I'm literally so nervous.
We'll see if Carlos can be convinced of anything then.
I mean, I liked it. So the rating was already going to be pretty spoiler. I always say that at the beginning. Hello and welcome back to our podcast. This is your favorite book besties. My name is Carlos.
My name is Lauren.
And I'm Rose. And today we are going to be discussing my 5-star read.
You're looking nervous.
I am nervous. The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. Woo! Everybody.
Woo!
Cheers.
No lie, I've been calling her Anna Winstead. Couldn't tell you why.
Not Anna Wintour.
Anna Wintour.
Literally told like 5 people, yo, you would love this book by Anna Winstead.
Ashley Ann Winstead.
Gotcha.
So should we explain what our next 3 episodes are going to be?
Yeah. So basically, we're going to do, each of us are going to give the homework to have all of us read each other's 5-star books. So today we are going to be talking about Rose's 5-star pick. She thinks that this book is just, all around 5 out of 5. Would recommend, loves it, obsessed. And yeah, we're all just going to go down the line doing that same thing and hopefully not roast each other's picks. We'll see.
Hopefully nobody ends an episode crying, so.
Because y'all know it'd probably be me. Anyway, Rose, what the hell is this crazy ass book about?
Shall I read the synopsis?
I actually did not read the synopsis of this book.
Me neither.
I think that's better to go into this book like super blind, honestly, because it's just, you never know what you're going to get in the next chapter,
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what the synopsis gives away.
While in college in upstate New York, Shay Evans and her best friends met a captivating man who seduced them with a web of lies about the way the world works, bringing them under his thrall. By senior year, Shay and her friend Laurel were the only ones who managed to escape. Now, 8 years later, Shay's built a new life in a tiny Texas suburb, but when she hears the horrifying news of Laurel's death delivered of all ways by her favorite true crime podcast, Crusader, she begins to suspect that the past she thought she buried is still very much alive and the predators more dangerous than ever.
And even just that, first couple sentences, I feel like ruined the shock value for me of, Don's whole thing. So, I would recommend that people just don't even read the synopsis. If you want to read this book, just go in blind, stop watching here, go read it.
I was confused at first as to why it was called The Last Housewife. I liked it. I like that was the name of the book.
Yeah, it all comes together. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what was everyone's first impression? So we start with Shay, who's just living her rich housewife life. She just quit her job as being a writer, an editor lady. And she's just, sitting by the pool listening to her true crime podcast. What do we think about that opening scene? How do you feel?
For me, I thought it was interesting how she obviously knows the podcast host. And I'm pretty sure you find that out immediately. She was like, oh yeah, James, this guy that I went to college with.
They grew up together.
She grew up with Jamie, yeah.
Jamie, not James.
Oh, now you're calling him by his government name.
James, Anna.
These white-ass names, I can't keep up. Sorry, Jamie, she was like, oh yeah, me and Jamie go way back, and I just casually listen to his podcast, and he has no idea. And that's just kind of what it is. But she's obsessed with true crime, and she was wasn't she kind of convinced to quit her job? Her husband was kind of like, it's fine if you want to quit.
She wanted to write a novel, and her husband was like, oh yeah, quit your job. You have time to write your novel.
Yeah, so she's been having some writer's block, and she's just been kind of vibing at the house, listening to her little podcast, bathing in the sun.
Yeah, I thought the beginning was for sure intriguing, the way she found out that Laurel died through the podcast. And like when you find out that it's her childhood best friend doing the podcast, I thought that was really interesting. It's a good way to connect everything together.
Yeah, where he's like, she committed suicide. That's what the police are saying, but we don't really know. I think she was murdered. And then he's like, I have an old friend, just letting you know if you're listening. My number's the same. I would love if you reached out. And she is very impulsive because like I don't know if I would my first instinct would be to fly to New York. I
Oh,
would
I
maybe
would.
call him first.
I mean, if she has the money, you know.
She did.
Her husband Cal had the
Right.
money. And he's a whole nother character, an interesting man that we never meet.
Right. Well, and it's just funny too, because I don't know. I feel like just as soon as I started this book, I could just tell. And as soon as one certain element popped in, I was like, this book is so rose coded. It
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah. Like literally everything, like from the coal to just everything, everything. I was like, okay, yeah, I can see why Rose gave this 5 stars.
Literally, it
I love this
was
book.
hilarious. But yeah, Girly Girl just hops on a plane and she's like, I think my friend was murdered, and my childhood friend, who's also into true crime, thinks that she was murdered. We're gonna be detectives and we're gonna figure this out together. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, same. Like, if I especially having that background information of one of her out of her little trio,
Mhm.
Mhm.
one of them had already committed suicide in a similar way, and then now the second one is dead, and now she's the only one left. Like, if I'm her and all that is happening, number 1, I'm scared because I think I'm
True,
next.
I'm scared,
Yeah.
yeah.
Obviously, fuck the police because they're, like, not doing really anything because they didn't help her first friend. So if I already have that poor experience, I'm gonna be like, "Okay, clearly I need to do this kind of on my own terms." So I totally would have done similar things for sure.
I think I would have, but I probably would have called my friend first. Like, "Hey, no, we haven't talked in a while, but I'm also, like, concerned and scared," you know?
But then you're leaving a phone trail.
Okay, alright. I mean, she did leave a credit card trail.
I don't think I would have called first. I would have called once I got there. Yeah, for sure.
Because where did they meet? Where did they meet up when she got to New York?
Well, when she first got to New York, she went to the police station before she even
Oh, right.
did Jamie, and then where did they meet up? At his hotel or at her hotel?
I think it might have been his.
'Cause something about him being in, like, a Motel 6 or something like that, right?
Motel, hotel, Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn.
But yeah, part of the reason why when she went to the police station first that she was like, "Fuck this," is because the same chief of police was working there.
Well, he was a detective when she was
At
in
the time,
college. Yeah,
he got
and
promoted.
yeah, so we get, like, a little backstory, and she sees, like, that he's the chief, and he doesn't remember her at first.
Mhm.
And Laurel in college was sexually assaulted. And that was how Shay and her met and went to the police department. And what's his name?
With
Adam
Clem.
Dorsey with Clem. Yes. They literally all three met in this like trauma scenario.
Shay had found Laurel in a basement crying, like, trying to put on her clothes, and she's like, "Oh my god, I can't leave yet." Clem is AKA Clementine, is walking down the stairs, and she's like, "You look like you're in distress. What the hell happened? Don't even know you." And then they said the name of some guy, and she was like, "Oh my god, he's such a piece of shit." And then they all went to the police station together.
And the police did nothing.
No, literally was like, well, what did you expect? I mean, you were leading him on all night.
And you're dressed so provocatively that, like, obviously he thinks that he's gonna bang you. And I was just like,
The eye twitch.
Yes.
But then later we find out why. Like all of this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it all, like, makes sense, but then it enrages you more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Clementine is the first friend that had hung herself when they were still in college, all 3 of
Mhm.
them. Um, and so but there were, like, things that weren't adding up about her death because she had hung herself.
Yeah, it was and so she played for the soccer team, and I think it was, like, in the girls' locker room or something, and she had "I'm sorry" carved into her skin. But it's, like, kind of similar because the police didn't really release super detailed, um, like, detailed details? What am I trying to say?
Detailed information.
Thank you, detailed information of
I need
Laurel's
detailed
body.
details.
All it said was all it said was that she had, like, razor cuts on her skin and things like that, and it was like, "Hmm, razor cuts on her skin, that's similar."
Yeah.
And no photos of her body, so you can't even see if there were words on her body or not.
And so you kind of learn things a little bit sporadically, like, you're not given all of the information all at once. So later on, you find out that obviously after trauma bonding, Clem, Laurel, and Shay all want to live together at college. Um, and they find this place, but then they're like, "Gee dang, we need a fourth person." And then they find this fucking weirdo named Rachel.
Rachel.
She's just so off-putting and creepy, but they're like, "That's our fourth." And I'm like, "In what world? I would never."
No,
Yeah.
I guess Laurel felt bad for her, but, like, I don't wanna share a living space with a girl that's staring at me like this. No, I'm scared. I'm really scared.
It's giving hamsters in the microwave as a child, like, that
Yes,
is what this
bro,
bitch
Definitely.
was
literally.
doing, like, just crazy bitch, and yeah, then we're introduced to Rachel's father, Don.
This is where it all starts. I do want to say I did really like the way that everything was like the dual timeline was, where she explained everything that happened in her past through Jamie's podcast. I thought that was really good. How they implemented the podcast elements into the book. That was really cool.
We love a podcast.
We do, we do.
We do love a podcast.
Yeah, I liked because it also wasn't revealed right away, until she started telling her story. They kind of started looking into Laurel's life like, she didn't have a job since for like 5 years. She hasn't even talked to her mom since we graduated college. She worked at a bakery or catering place. Like, that doesn't sound like her. She did costumes type of thing. And then them following like little paper trails and Shay finally telling Jamie, like, "Oh, well, our roommate Rachel had this dad, and I became obsessed with him."
Right, like, just such an interesting, because it's almost like Shay has very obviously, like, blacked all this stuff out, just like trauma blacked it out, and so she's reopening these old wounds, talking to Jamie, and she's kind of having these epiphanies like, "Oh my god, maybe that's the reason why I am," and, then Jamie, he is overwhelmed quite a few times where he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna stop recording. This is getting too real." And she's like, "No, let me tell my story." And he's like, "I'm unwell. No."
He was scared.
Yeah, because the first story started, like, kind of tame where she was like, "Oh, yeah," and then Rachel brought her dad, and we went out to dinner, and her dad was like, "Oh, Rachel's told us so much about you," even though they're like, "Rachel doesn't even talk to us." And,
Right.
it
Yeah.
was fine, right? He kind of, made the girls feel very adult, and, they all had some little trauma, little daddy issues. After the first story, things just started going downhill.
Literally, it goes from, "We had dinner with Don" to, "We were all obsessed with Don." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is Don?" Like, they're like, "Yeah, we went over to his house and then a couple more times, and then we just never left for a full year and a half." And I was like, "What? What do
Yeah.
you mean?"
Yeah. Escalated quick, quick.
The manipulation was crazy.
And I will say that is something that's so annoying because I went down a rabbit hole of looking through reviews of this book.
Oh, I haven't read any.
So many people had problems with how fast it took Don to kind of brainwash these three girls. And I was like, listen, first of all, this is fiction. Let's not forget this. It is fiction. But also, all of these girls have backgrounds of daddy issues. So, of
Mhm.
Mhm.
course, they're going to take what Don is saying to them and making them feel as, hitting a soft spot with them. So, there's already that. And they're young. They're in college, so dare I say they are still rather impressionable. And, they've got this adult man that's making them feel wanted and smart and beautiful, and of course they're gonna probably follow along a little bit with that background of the daddy issues.
Exactly, and they were specifically targeted because of that. Like, obviously, Rachel, as his daughter, picked up on, what they had going on in their lives, and that's probably what all the things that Dawn heard about was like, "Oh, easily manipulated. Okay,
Right.
check."
Like, everyone's story is different. I feel like it's better that it was such a small group of girls, that it was just, like, the 3 of them. If it was a bigger group of, like, 7, maybe I would have a harder time believing that so many of them could get sucked into this, but when your world is so close-knit like that, like, I don't know. For me, it was very believable, especially with how damaged these girls' pasts were, that I'm
Yeah.
like, "This be checking out. This be checking out."
Yeah, I agree, and even the one girl, I won't say who yet, that, like, wasn't buying in completely, obviously, she's kind of influenced by she only has these 2 friends. Of course, she's gonna wanna follow her friends in whatever
Mm.
they think is good, whatever they think is okay, even though she's being tortured, but
And basically, it just goes 0 to 100. Like,
yeah.
few dinners with Don, a few stolen glances with Shay, and Shay's like, "Oh, he wants this." And all of a sudden, after a few dinners, whatever, they are stuck in this house for a full, like, year and a half, I think it is.
Yeah, something like that.
And he has them, dressing in long dresses, their hair braided, like, just cult through and through, okay?
He has other men coming over to just, like, literally just watch them just do chores and stuff. That was so weird.
And literally, the way it even starts and he even shows the girls is like, "Rachel, go put your hand over the candle." And she just
Just stays there.
No emotion.
no emotion. Shay talks about her never smelling burnt flesh until that, like, moment and not, like, the experience of smelling that. And then
Fucking Laurel.
Laurel, oh, Laurel,
She's like,
she
"Me
is, like,
next, me next!"
yeah, she does have, some extreme daddy issues and then her trauma and everything, and she's like, "Oh, me, I'll do it." She doesn't last that long, but her life has changed.
Yeah, her pick-me energy throughout this whole book, it was hard for me to not be, annoyed by it sometimes. I had to keep reminding myself, like, "She's got trauma. There are reasons why she's like this," but I
Mhm.
was just like, "Fucking Laurel. Get a grip, girl." Like,
Yes,
I don't know.
it was a lot. Let's go back to present day.
I love the cult.
Yeah, I know, it's so good, but I just like how it's, like, woven in, kind of how Carlos said earlier, how you hear a story, but then you experience you're, like, back in real time of what Jamie and Shay are doing. Like, they saw the little symbol of the what?
Something tongue sparrow, no?
Oh, maybe tongue cut? Oh, ooh, hold on.
Forked tongue sparrow.
No!
A little snake bird.
Dang, it just says sparrow on the page that I turned to. Oh, tongue cut sparrow.
Tongue cut sparrow.
Do you remember the photo?
The photo that, like, was of all 3 of them,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
Shay's face no, it was Laurel's face.
No, Shay's face.
Shay's
It
face
was
was
Shay's
just like
face because it was a Laurel. So it was a Laurel. It was a picture they found at Laurel's place, that had the three of them, Clem, Laurel,
Mhm.
and Shay.
And Rachel.
Oh, and Rachel. So it was the four of them. And Shay's face was like scratched off.
So is Rachel's.
Oh, really?
Which, thinking back to it now, is such a big clue, and I'm just kicking myself for not
Ah, okay, yeah,
realizing.
yeah.
Anyway, I was trying to figure this shit out so much, and I was like, "I'm lost. I'm simply lost. What the fuck
Listen,
is going
me
on?"
too. And in my reread, literally in the first chapter, I was like, I should have seen that coming. I
I
should have
was
seen the
so
twist
mad
just by the first chapter. And obviously, I just feel like you're just thrown in so many directions that you're like, I don't know what to believe. You can't trust anybody.
Yeah. And the fact that we don't know like Shay's backstory, like we slowly learn it, I think that's why we're like even more confused. But then obviously it all starts coming together once we start learning.
because her and Jamie just do a straight deep dive on
Mhm.
Laurel. Like, they go to her apartment, they visit the places that she's worked at. They're just trying to put the pieces together of like why she committed suicide, if she committed suicide, and they just keep finding these things that aren't making sense. Like Rose said, she's taking these catering jobs, but she's begging for them.
Mhm.
But for what? Because that's like not her passion, obviously. She was like a crafty person, right?
Yeah, a costume designer. She was very into theater.
They're finding all these weird creepy things, and this woman that's like, oh yeah, Laurel was great as like a tenant, but then she like kept disappearing and was just, her rent always came, but I just stopped seeing her for like 6 years, and you're kind of like, what the f is going on?
Yeah, and her checks were written from the Adonis group or
Group.
whatever company. Yeah.
Oh.
Guys, we should have known. We literally
I
should have known.
know, I'm so stupid.
Adonis.
But then she obviously, I think Shay in the back of her head, she's like, this is like so similar. That's why she's telling Jamie her story. And then when
Yeah.
they actually go to the tongue cut sparrow or whatever,
Yeah,
like, cause they go to the place that they think it is, but it's like a quiet like area. And then she asks,
like a waiter.
yeah, waiter, and is like, so what you know about this? And he's like, you really want to go there?
They go into the basement, and then her and Jamie have to like fucking pay $1,000 entry or some shit.
And
I
then
was like,
take drugs.
Oh yeah, take the drugs.
pop some Molly.
And to think they were doing it all for Laurel.
Yes.
Well, we can't spoil yet, but now, yeah.
And like Jamie keeps being like, hey, are you sure? I'm a little uncomfy, but like if you're down, I guess I'm down. And she's like, I'm fucking down. Let's do this shit. And I was like, Shay, chill, maybe.
And she's just like full into it. And then she should have gone in with maybe a little bit more of a game plan. I'm sure the drugs didn't really help too much, but she's over here asking people like, "Do you know this girl? Can you be a little more inconspicuous?"
Right, right. As soon as she gets in, she's like, do you know Laurel? Where's Laurel? They're like, are you a reporter? She's like, I'm curious. Like, girly girl. Oh my god. Yeah. And then people keep like eyeing her. It's like all like red lights and just like people banging and choking and sucking. And you're just like, what is going on? What is going on?
Are you buying or selling?
Yeah.
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 Fucking Shay. Something unlocked in her brain and she was like, kind of like this though.
And she
Yeah.
literally, whenever they left, she was like, she didn't tell him. She went back.
That was another thing that people were like so mad about in reviews. They were like, "Are you telling me that this super secret club, like Shay was just able to escape so easily, like through an open window?" I was like, "That's what you're focusing on? The open window in this crazy sex club? Like, are you okay?"
They're not okay.
But did she have to escape from the tongue cut sparrow? Wasn't it just like you can just leave? Or are we talking about the like when like the house?
Oh, that was the other.
And it's not like they had like security guards or anything, you know? Like it was just like the people that wanted to be there wanted to be there.
A good parallel for both of these places, because at the Tongue Cut Sparrow, Shay meets Nicole, and she's like, hey, like, do you know Laurel? And Nicole's like, shh, girl, do you like this? And Shay's like, not gonna lie, kinda. And Nicole's
Kinda
like,
do.
well, this is baby stuff compared to where I'm going. And Shay's like, tell me more. That sounds like in her head, she's like, Laurel would go there, but her mouth is like, I want to go there. And
Mhm.
so Nicole's like, if you're real about this, it gets crazy, but go to this mansion. And so the
Mhm.
difference between the two is Tuncut Sparrow, very like hidden club, suit and tie, people asking how much, whatever. At
Mhm.
the mansion, naked girls tied up, men wearing crazy masks and just being like, shut the
Chanting.
fuck up. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Shut the fuck
a
up.
crazy difference. Literally,
no safe word, nothing.
the first time she went, it wasn't was it the blood scene? Was that the first thing she saw or no?
No, I don't think so. The first thing, because the blood scene, like with Katie, right? Was her
Yeah.
name? Yeah, no, that was
That was
like
the
the
second one?
second time. Yeah, I think the first time she was like hiding, and
Oh, behind a pillar.
And she was, like, listening or something,
yeah, and she
right?
saw a bunch of men like in a circle with the masks on, and the girls were like, I don't know, where they were like tied up.
Oh, they were naked and they only had on their heels. Yeah, and they were
Yeah, yeah.
tied up.
And they were on their knees in front of them.
And then luckily Nicole showed up and was like, "Hey, girl, I told you to go through the front door. What are you doing over here? You're gonna get in trouble."
And then Nicole kept being like, hey, which she should have, because she's like, hey, stop doing dumb shit because your name is on me because I invited you here. And if you do
Mhm.
something stupid, I'm gonna get in trouble. And Shay was like, I'm gonna keep doing me. And I was like, I was like,
I will say that's
Shay.
one thing is that Shay as a character, she's not, like, very considerate of others, even though she means well because she's trying to save her friend or, like, trying to remember not remember, my brain doesn't work. She is trying to, like, discover things, like, what actually happened to her friend. Was like, "Girl, there's real live people over here that are living, and their lives are at stake."
Yeah, like you see what these men are capable of. And you're still just like, fuck the rules. I'm gonna ask all these crazy questions that make me suspicious as hell. I was like, Shay. That's why people keep asking if you're a reporter because you just keep saying crazy things.
But did anybody listen to the audio, by the way?
I did.
I switched back and forth.
What are they called? Paters?
Patters,
Patters. Okay.
which isn't patter Latin for dad.
That makes sense.
That's why the girls were called daughters.
And you know what? It makes sense because one of the times that Dawn, like, if we go back to the flashbacks, that Dawn, like, kind of corners Shay, he always, like, gets her alone. He was like, Shay, you can call me Peter, like her dad. You can call me father.
Yeah.
You can call me dad if you want to. Like, it's up to you.
But also let me finger you in this
Yes,
hallway real
he
quick. I was
literally
like,
just
what the
fingered her
hell?
against the wall. Like, I think his daughter is like somewhere over.
Rachel's in the corner like,
Watching watching her weird ass.
and let's not forget about a key member of this story, the little page time he has. Fucking Cal, her real life husband, keeps
Oh
calling
yeah.
her.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I see you're in New York. Like, okay, I hope your writer's block is ending, but we have this party we're supposed to go to, and she's like, no. She keeps like
Yeah.
rejecting his
And then
calls.
she starts realizing like her hatred of men and she's like, do you really want me home, Cal, or do you just want me to make fucking dinner and organize your parties? I'm sick of this. And all the while she's like, but Jamie though.
I know, I
Jamie.
The whole
know.
time I was like, kiss him.
See, look, you had your kiss and more in this one.
Oh, more. Way more.
Yeah. All the while, Jamie is like falling in love with Shay because he like basically confesses that he's loved her forever
His whole
as
life.
childhood. And she's like, oh my God, these feelings are just so crazy. I'm gonna kiss you. And he's like, you're a married woman. And she's like, ugh, I really don't like Cal. And he's like, okay.
Okay.
Jamie just giving into it. He's like, well, okay.
So they kind of have this little side romance because but at the same time, Jamie's still like, "Shay, can you, like, clue me in on things? Like, stop just doing crazy shit and, like, maybe tell me about it?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." But I'm not gonna do that, actually.
Because she's like, well, I am gonna keep going back to the what are they called again? Patters.
The Patters.
The Patters house, the mansion, and
Mhm.
just, go see what's up. And then that's when the blood.
The blood scene was crazy.
Yes, when it's literally Katie, who I think I don't know if she's being punished or she's being initiated, I don't remember.
She's being punished.
Oh, being punished, okay. There's, like, a bucket of blood, we find out. Katie goes, dips her arm in there, and slaps herself, and then all the men around literally go and do the same. They're like, "Whore!" All of these, like, things, just yelling at her, slapping her. I'm like, "What?"
And while all this is happening, Shay is seeing all these things, and she's like, "Oh my god, this is so Don coded." Like, I feel like he is here, I feel like he's behind this, everything is very familiar, my trauma is, like, waking up, and it's like, "Oh my god, run, 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 run," but she stays because she's like, "Oh, God, I am a little fucked up, and I do like this, huh?"
Yeah, and she's trying to figure out, she's like, "Have I always like this? Did Don just awaken something in me, or is it because, like, he's the one that implanted that in my head? Like, why am I like this?" Because he made them do crazy things, like making Clem roll in her broken glass, making, Laurel and Shay, like he was really awful to Clem. He was so awful to her, making them, like, hit her with the belt and all this stuff,
Oh
like,
yeah.
making them all lose weight and restricting their diets and dyeing their hair.
All while every night he would choose who he was gonna have sex with, and it was still, like in the back of their mind, it was an honor to be chosen by him, and it was almost a punishment laying in the room next to his room and hearing who he was having sex with that night as like a, "Ugh, that could have been me, that should have been me, what did I do wrong?" Like, the manipulation and
The brainwashing, crazy.
And the weaponized feminism that Don was using. He's like, because Whitney College, where they're at, is supposed to be like a super liberal college and all of this. So he's like, I feel like people have kind of strayed. Feminism is about empowering women, and you guys aren't really being empowered. You know what's so empowering is being submissive. I'm not sure how we got there, but okay.
Yeah. And he uses the Bible as like a way to like you explain how that works, which is crazy. And he also is obsessed with Greek philosophers, which comes into play a bit later as well.
Obsessed with Aristotle and, like, just saying, kind of just twisting everything too to fit and just manipulate them further.
it's important to note that eventually Shay just cuts Cal off to the point where he's like, I'm cutting you off, like, no credit card, you're on your own. And she's like, you know what? That's fine. We're over. I don't want to be your little housewife anymore.
Yeah, because he literally tells her, he's like, well, I really thought whenever you quit your job that you were gonna have more time to, like, do your household duties. Like, sir, it's over. Divorce. Divorce, babes. Divorce.
Divorce.
Yeah, he was really wild for that. That cow. That cow. And then that's when Shay starts thinking, like, holy shit, did the part of me that liked Cal see a little bit of Don in him? And I was like, oh
And
my
it's a
God.
cycle. No, the more you find out, it's literally a cycle of abuse, like, her witnessing her mom be abused, like, her dad leaving, then witnessing all of that, and then her, like, finding her power whenever she's in, like, high school and kind of using that for, like, getting older men, but her not realizing, like, "Oh, I think he was probably, manipulating me." Jamie's trying to help her, and she's like, "Well, two things can be true at once, Jamie. girl, you were underage to
Right,
get an engagement.
right.
Like, I think there's something there we should
You
work
know,
through.
it kind of reminds me of in Dead Inside. Remember we had that conversation about the girl in the hospital
Oh,
that was saying that
mhm.
she liked being R-worded? Yeah, it kind of reminds me, it's kind of like the same type of thing where it's like you kind of convince yourself that you're the one that's like empowered by this.
Yeah, like, you know something's gonna happen or that it's inevitable or whatever, and so it's like, "Oh, well, I like it," and I think that's also, like, how she got into, these relationships is in the back of her head. She's like, "Oh, well, this is what I like, right?" And every time she's like, "My body is betraying me and things," you know?
One of the craziest moments for me, I mean, I saw it coming, but just for it to actually happen, was she hears one of the patters say, "Oh, Rachel is gonna get a hold of them, and they're gonna"
Mm.
like, whatever, and I was like, "When Rachel gets a hold of them, what?" I was, like, so shooketh, and I'm like, "Okay, this is definitely Don, like, he is the head honcho of this whole thing, and Rachel is still kicking, she is"
That crazy bitch.
Yeah.
like, when Shay has that revelation, I also just felt a sense of, like, doom, you know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, she's in for it, this is not
I
gonna
feel
go
like I wasn't really shocked by that revelation because I feel like I figured it out when they called him the philosopher. Because going back to him being obsessed with Greek philosophers, that was the first thing I thought of, and I was like, no, this has to be Don. So when they were like, oh, Rachel, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
I feel like whenever I first read it, because everyone was like, "Oh, no, 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 the philosopher, like, he has a Greek name and all this." I feel like I don't know if it was because I was reading it so fast, it was just going over my head. I was like, "So is it Dawn? Is it not Dawn? Are they manipulating me?" You know?
'Cause now I get what you were saying too, with saying that, the narrator is somewhat unreliable, because she's
Yeah.
obviously telling you things, but you're learning it at her pace, and you're learning it as she's opening up these old wounds. So it's like, not really misinformation, it's more so just like, you're learning along with her and, like, having these revelations with her, so it was just like, oh, it was crazy, it was crazy.
And her deciding to, like, find out who all the marquees and the patters are, like, "I'm gonna expose them," type of thing. Because who was the first one? She
I think it was both the chief I think it was the chief of police that she was like, "Oh, this checks out, and I'm scared." And she just kept noticing people, in power. She was like, "Wait, that guy's running for, like, governor or mayor or something? That's scary." Because his whole thing was like, "Oh, I'm super liberal," but he's, like, tying girls up and making them call him, master and all this crazy shit. Um she notices like heads of different companies and trust fund babies, and she's like, wow, the men really be menning right now.
Oh, and then one of them, it was from her school, and that's why when they went to the dean about everything that happened with Dawn, they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and freaking Adam Dorsey. I was so upset whenever, like, I mean, obviously it made sense that he was a patter or whatever, but it's like you just really gaslit them and just made them think that it was all their fault and aren't believing them. And then he's like the most abusive to because Nicole is his daughter, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They're, tied together. I'm like, this enrages me.
And I totally thought that Nicole was gonna turn on Shay. I thought that when she was like telling Shay, like, you know what, I do want to get out, like, but there's nowhere for me to go, type of a thing. And she was like, I've got you. We're gonna run away. We're gonna get you safe. I thought Nicole was gonna like trap her and be like, see, like she was trying to stray me away, but I thought that she was gonna
To like
turn on
prove
her.
herself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But she like legitimately wanted to get out, and then the chief of police guy like just went ape
he's
shit.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he kill her? Or did he try to kill her?
He killed Nicole.
Yeah, she's dead.
Yeah, he, like, threw her to the ground, and she, like, cracked her skull on a tree branch or a stone or something, I don't know,
Yeah,
it
a
was crazy.
rock. He like slammed her head down into a rock.
And then that's when his, like, fellow Paters took Shay hostage.
Well, Shay ran at him like in her rage. She just didn't even think about it. She like tackled him and was about to stab him with the knife that she had. But they were like, "You won't do it. You're not gonna do it." And then she didn't do it. And I think that's when they grabbed her and tied her up and shit.
And that's when she knew that she was going to see Rachel, because they were like, "Oh, Rachel's gonna do like crazy shit to you. You just wait. Like you're gonna be begging for forgiveness and all this stuff." She gets to they call it the hilltop, right?
The
Yeah,
hilltop, yeah.
Yeah, she gets to the hilltop. She's like all tied up, and she hears someone coming.
and here comes Rachel.
It's Rachel, but
But
who is it really?
Who is
Who
it?
walks down none other than Laurel. Laurel is Rachel. Laurel is not dead. Laurel is running this thing.
crazy. That
And
dumb
that's why
bitch.
I was like, the first chapter I should have known. No pictures of the body.
Something that I feel like we all collectively left out on purpose. When they were in college, people would always think that Laurel and Rachel were sisters because they looked very similar. So it makes sense that she was able to kind of fake her death and make it seem like it was her, even though this bitch killed Rachel. Rachel was strung up in that tree.
Exactly. Plus, like, the connection with the police and all of that. Like, it's so easy to cover up.
Right.
But I mean, we do find out Rachel was just as crazy as we thought. She really did just like killing the girls.
Yeah, because she's the one who killed Clem, right? We find out.
Yep.
But it's because she was the one that kept trying to run away. She was the one that was being disobedient in Don's eyes. And so Rachel was like, I've got you. I've got you, Donnie boy. And then, yeah, Hella killed Clem. And that's why we find out the picture that was in Laurel's apartment with Rachel's face crossed out and Shay's was because Laurel was always jealous of Shay because she was like Don's favorite,
The favorite. Yeah.
and Laurel wanted to be that. So that's why Shay's face was crossed out, but also Rachel's because she is no
Yeah.
longer with us.
And literally, whenever they graduated, they both like promised to get out of New York. Shay obviously did. Laurel was supposed to. She never did. And the reason why she was like begging for catering jobs is because she was just trying to find Don. She just wanted to go back to him.
When Lauren,
Lauren, you're the story.
when Laurel found Dawn, the mansion wasn't a thing because they made it together.
Yeah, they made the patterns.
The patterns and everything, it was all like Laurel, like her, she was the mastermind behind everything basically. Because the theater aspect also went into like the masks they would wear and like the traditions they would do and the rituals and all that stuff.
Which is just crazy that she was so brainwashed and like that she did all that and that Shay was chasing her ghost, but she's real.
It was
She's
all
here,
her.
she's alive.
And wasn't like the garden there was some sort of aspect where like there was a room that was filled with a flower that was like a laurel flower or something like that, right?
No, it was Clem.
Clem's like garden or whatever, because whenever they were in the house, like Clem was unhappy, obviously, and so she had that garden, and so the garden now is just where all the dead
The
daughters are.
buddies.
She's like, "Oh, isn't it beautiful? I did all of this for for Clem. Wouldn't she love it?" Laurel, I don't think so. I think she would have liked being alive.
And then Shay is hit with Dawn entering the chat, and she just is reawakened with all of this feeling. Basically, she's like, "Oh my god, I feel validated because it is him, but now I'm getting all these mixed emotions of like part of me wants to just say I'm sorry and revert and come back, put on the dress, braid my hair. Yes, daddy, like whatever."
Yes.
And but then she's like, "No, like this is fucked up. This is fucked up." And Don's like, "I've got these girls wrapped around my finger. Yes, Laurel is her own crazy bitch, but I don't need Laurel
But
anymore."
before that though, before like Shay even sees Dawn, Laurel helps Shay escape.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
Laurel's like, "No, no, you gotta get out," before Dawn even, like, comes down the stairs. Laurel's like, you need to go,"
I thought
and
she was gonna kill her
no, I also thought that Laurel was gonna kill her.
because she's like she's always been jealous. So I thought she was like, finally, like I'm gonna get rid of the only person that can take Dawn away from me.
Right.
Exactly, but she, like, actually ends up helping her, and Shay is able to escape and tells Jamie, and they're like Jamie's like, "I'm gonna tell my producer we're gonna release an emergency, like, episode to expose everybody," and they get into whatever the governor's event or whatever. It's like everyone is a pattern. Everybody is in this crazy sex cult, and then that's when she sees Dawn is at the event, and he's, like, walking down, and she's just frozen. She's, like in her head, she's thinking, "I literally need to either kill him or run away. What am I doing?" And he kisses her. He's like, "My girl has come back to me. I don't even care what you're thinking. You came back. I love you."
I can't.
She does, I will say, Shay, like, snaps out of it a little bit. Like, she's like, "Wait a minute," and I mean, this was after he had, kissed her a little bit. She's like, "I actually don't want this. I'm coming for you and everyone, like, you're
But not
going
the way
down."
you want me to come.
Not that way. And he's
Ah.
like, bitch, no." And where's she back at again?
His red room. They're back in his red room, and he's like, "Have no fear. I will free up this spot for you. Laurel, slit your throat." And Laurel's like, "Okay."
Oh yeah, that was
Like,
crazy.
I didn't think that was gonna happen because he had the knife in his hand and he just handed it to Laurel. He was like, "Oh, here, you're in control." And Shay's like, Laurel, like, come on, let's go, let's go." And Laurel's just like, "Hmm." And Dawn says, "Okay, now put the knife to your throat." And she just goes,
Which brought me back to the flame scene where she has to hold her hand over the flame, like, just from day one, she
yeah.
was obedient, like, no matter what, which was just such a poetic, like, ending for Laurel, honestly. I wish she didn't die, let's be clear with that, but, like, the way that it happened, I was like, "Damn, full circle."
It makes sense, yeah, and her having the fact that, like, she killed Rachel and, like, cover that up, like, that's weighing on her conscience and, all the things that she's done. It's like you can't go back, and even though Shay's like, "No, no, you're a victim, like, no, it's okay." She just ends her life. And then, of course, Jamie comes in. He's like, "All right, Shay, put the axe down." 'Cause she, like, hits, Dawn with the axe a few times, but nothing to, like, kill him.
She hits him with, like, the
With
blunt
the
end of it.
backside. Yeah.
Do you wanna explain what happens when the FBI comes in, though?
"FBI, put your hands up, drop the axe."
Jamie's like, "Hey, Shay, it's over now, like, you don't wanna kill him."
But then her female rage just takes over and she's like, no, like this has to end right here, right now. If not, it's gonna keep coming back to haunt me. And yeah, she just ends it once and for all.
Dawn dead.
Axe to the head multiple times. Bah, 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 bah. Blood spurting everywhere, and the FBI is like, "What the fuck?"
"Ma'am, you're going to jail."
Yeah. But, like, Jamie is surprisingly not super off-put by this.
Yeah, he understands. After listening to her story and everything she's gone through, he like understood. He's like, okay, makes sense.
I'm very satisfied with the fact that, like, she killed him and he's not in jail, and,
Mhm.
like, I'm okay with the fact that she's in jail and, was caught all of this, like, I just feel like she just needed to kill
It
him.
was giving Gypsy Rose. That's what it reminded me of. It's like,
I do.
yeah,
I know what
yeah,
you
you
mean.
see
I
it,
know
you
what
see
you
it.
mean.
I see it, I see it.
And then you get, like, a what is it, 2 months later? I think, like, a flash forward
Something like
to
that.
Jamie being like, okay, she's about to go on trial, basically, to see if she's gonna have a life sentence for murder, but we're gonna kind of give you the full story and let you decide if you think that Shay deserves prison time or if she was justified in her murder of Don, Father Don.
Father Don.
Not Father Don. Oh, and that was another thing is the churches. Them, like, all the different churches, they were like, "Oh, yeah, mountaintop," which is I think it's supposed to be like what's the real life church music people? Hillsong? It's supposed to be like that, like mountain song, mountaintop or whatever, that big old church. They're all in on it and all this.
Even though he knew, I think he knew that he was going to die. I think that part of him knew that Shay was going to kill him, but him just still trying to plead with her by saying, like, you think this ends with me? It's so much bigger than me. We've got people all over that do these practices and just believe that men are king.
I don't know, it just felt so real. I was, like, anxious the entire time. In my head, I was like, "Ah, I bet, like, all these men in real life, this is rich people probably do this," and, like, it just feels like a parallel. Even though, yes, a lot of the things that happen are very, like, outrageous, I'm like, the cycle of trauma and abuse, it's just
I like the way it wrapped up with the podcast and him kind of like talking to the reader because the book that she was writing was called The Last Housewife. So like it kind of just tied everything together. I like that ending.
I believe that Shay does not deserve prison time.
Same.
yeah, she should get time served. She's been in there for long enough.
So we obviously know, Rose, your rating 5 stars.
Even with the reread, because I was nervous to reread it, I was like, "What if I don't like it as much as I did whenever it came out?" But I love it just as much.
Oh, I think after the discussion, so I was thinking 4 stars, but I think I have to give it a 4.5. Yeah,
Okay.
it was really good. I actually really liked it.
Wow, wow,
Yeah,
okay,
it was
okay.
good. I really enjoyed it. I liked everything about it, so.
No way!
Oh,
It's a
okay.
5 from me. It was really good. It was so good. I literally recommended it, like I said, to like 5 people automatically. The first 5 people I saw, I was like, you hate men, you should read this book. You like cults, you should read this book.
You're preaching your own gospel.
It was a great little mystery, and the cult, I'm telling you, like, the fact that I didn't read the synopsis, and I had remembered you said that there was gonna be a cult aspect, but I didn't realize how heavy the
Yes.
cult actually was and just, like, how fucked up the inner workings of all that system was. So, it was yeah, I was like, "Wow, that's bananas
Yeah.
crazy." So, here we are, 5
Wow.
stars.
The cult aspect also really reminded me. I don't know if you guys have seen American Horror Story.
Yes!
It was very similar to that, especially with Kai, like the cult leader in that.
Speechless. I'm so happy. I'm literally so happy you guys liked it. I was so nervous because 'cause I'm like, I know you guys' reactions, but did you love it? Like, so I'm wow.
Good pick, Rose.
Good
Yay!
pick.
Highly recommend to everyone watching for sure.
Read it. Don't listen to the reviews. Read this book. Trust us. It's good.
You have to suspend reality a little bit. You know, if the people that nitpick books like that, where it's like, oh, they could never have, gotten out of this room the way that they did, or shut up.
A common thing I see in reviews for this book is like, I just felt so uncomfortable reading it. It was too dark for me. I'm like,
That's the point.
exactly. It is the point. Like, you're supposed to feel very uncomfortable reading this book. Like, we're not reading just a literary fiction. We're not reading like a romance here. Like, it's a thriller.
Right.
Do you not feel thrilled?
Yeah, and something else that someone had said was like, "Oh, are you telling me that 3 girls that are supposed to be at, like, a feminazi school for just, like, extreme liberals, are you telling me that they would be so easily brought into a cult?" And I was like, "Yeah, it probably happens way more often than you think."
Yeah, it's very easy for people to be drawn into a cult.
And it's like I feel like these people are putting it in, like, their shoes where it's like, "Oh, I would never." And it's like, "Well, great for you, but there are many people that fall victim to this. So, are you saying that they're stupid or like stop victim blaming, you asshole?
I agree, and cult leaders and people in cults literally look for people that are vulnerable. They look for people with broken households. They look for people with trauma. They look for people trying to find a sense of like belonging to others.
People that need money.
Yes, people that need money, like Katie over here, like she's getting her tuition paid for. So I I feel like it was realistic in the sense of this world that was created, you know?
Even Shay went up to Katie and was like, "Girl, are you good?" And Katie was like, "I'll do that 10 times over, being slapped with blood by men, if that means my college is paid for." And Shay was like, "Got it. Noted."
Yeah.
Like, that's just, the people that are in this situation aren't as right in the mind as the average Joe. So, like, yeah, thankful, grateful, blessed that you, reader, would not find yourself in this mess. But, like, other people, not so lucky. It's just so irritating. I'm like, just shut up.
Yeah, just
Shut
shut
up.
up, guys.
But would recommend this book. So good, so good. Everybody go read it. And I know that we spoiled like some of the main plot twists, things like that. I feel like I say this every time, but we genuinely there's so many aspects that we did not get into in this book. So many little Easter eggs leading up to big reveals. All the podcast transcripts we weren't able to fully touch on just because they are so detailed. Like you literally get Shay's entire backstory, um, and the inner workings of her relationship with Jamie, her failing marriage with Cal, things like that. So definitely, you don't know the whole story.
Yeah, I feel so satisfied. I feel very happy. No, no one ended with tears.
We still have my episode to go.
Speaking of, what's gonna be your
You want to know?
Yes?
yes? Tell
I'll start
us.
reading it now. What is it?
I'm scared.
I'm also so scared, guys.
Wait, okay.
My pick is gonna be "The Road of Bones" by Demi Winters.
Oh, okay.
I think about it constantly. I just read the second book and I like loved it to the point where I went back and changed my rating because I just like literally think about it constantly. Um and so that's my 5-star pick.
Okay,
Wow.
It gave
interesting.
me very of Blood and Fire but Vikings vibes.
Oh, okay, I'm excited.
Me
I'm
too.
nervous. I'm nervous, but yes, that's my pick. So,
So everyone listening can join along.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I hope that you read my book. Read it now. Thank you so much. You guys can find me on Instagram or YouTube at Flower Reads a Lot.
And you can find me on Instagram at Kingdom of Books and on YouTube streaming video games at Carlos Kings.
and you can find me on Instagram at Lauren H. Writes, as well as YouTube at Read Anything Good. And you can find our podcast on Instagram and YouTube under Control Your Shelf _pod. That one was for Instagram. YouTube is just Control Your Shelf. I'd love to stick around, but I've got to go find my patter, so.
I knew you were gonna say some shit. I had a
Not the
feeling.
pattern. No, I just had a trauma response to
Patter's
that.
calling. Patter's calling. Gotta go. Gotta
He's
go.
gotta slap me with blood at 2, so.